always said, once a giant, always a giant. For me, it's only a giant.
Giants Nation, 96% of you watching aren't subscribed yet. If you're loving the Big Blue Breakdowns, hit that subscribe button and join the team.
Giants fans, welcome back to another episode of Only a Giant. We have something to celebrate for once here. We actually have a win. Giants beat the Browns. Cleveland Browns 15, New York Giants 21. It was kind of a dominating game, I feel like, for the Giants, even kind of despite the score that you see here, a one-score game. Really could have been much more, I think, with this game. And there's a couple of reasons why that is the case, but we'll get into that in a moment. Obviously, I'm your host here, Michael Doherty, with Only a Giant. Happy to be here on this Monday. Going to be a weird week, I would say. Obviously, we'll have the review today of the Browns Giants game, and then we'll get into Dallas maybe tomorrow, maybe Wednesday. We'll see on that one. I'm not 100% sure. I may have a guest on for that episode, and the guest that might join us is actually a Dallas fan, which is always fun. But the reason I may have this guy on, his name is Anthony. He's a pretty unbiased, I would say, Dallas fan. He's not a Dallas fan that is a horrible fan. You know, he's a guy that actually is pretty realistic with the Dallas Cowboys, with the New York Giants as well. He gives good opinions and is always willing to kind of share what he thinks and you know what he thinks about Dallas and realistic information rather than just a homer, which is why I like him. You know, talking about football with him and potentially having him on. But let's jump into what happened here today. Yesterday, at this point, obviously, Giants win 1-2 at this point. Kind of makes losing to the Commanders a little bit of a tougher pill to swallow at this point, because we could be 2-1 at this point, which is kind of crazy to think. Everything has felt quite doom and gloom, I think, this year, and it's nice to at least get a little bit of positivity. And quite honestly, we beat I would say we beat a flawed team. They have a great defense, awesome defense. There's no doubt about that. They have some talent on offense as well. Amari Cooper is still one of the better wide receivers in the league. He just doesn't get the love because he doesn't really have a quarterback throwing him the ball, and I think he gets kind of lost there just with the good defense and the kind of subpar offense. But hey, it is what it is, and we got to win. And you know, the Browns offense kind of looked like we expected, and to be truthful, the Browns defense, while it was good, didn't look as good as we thought it was going to be, or maybe that's more to do with the Giants offense. I don't know. So let's jump right into the Giants offense, and actually, you know what, maybe we'll look at like the overall team stats and kind of go from there. Obviously, guys, if you remember me talking last week, I think the Browns, one of the biggest issues for the Browns was third down. They finished 4 for 14 on third down, which obviously is not great. Flip side of that, Giants kind of finished right around there as well, 4 for 14. But that was something that we clearly knew that we might be able to take advantage of. We knew the Browns offensively were probably a little bit worse than the Giants, depending on kind of how Daniel Jones plays. We finished with 340 total yards versus 217 for the Cleveland Browns. And then the other things I generally like to look at is like time of possession. We had the ball for 33 minutes and 56 seconds, and they had the ball for 26 minutes and 4 seconds. So we controlled the clock, which I like. We were more penalized, which I didn't like. 9 penalties for 68 yards versus their 5 penalties for 48 yards. The big thing is we got in the red zone, though. 3 for 4 in the red zone versus 1 out of 1 for them. So they really kind of struggled getting the ball into the red zone. We rushed the ball a little bit better than them. Obviously, we played defense way better than them. But let's look at the individual stats next here for each team. So Daniel Jones obviously finished with 24 completions out of 34 attempts, 236 yards with 2 touchdowns. Only sacked twice. QBR 72.8. If you look at the actual rating, 109, even though it's kind of not really used much anymore. Also for the Giants, Devin Singletary, 16 carries, 65 yards, 4.1 average with 1 touchdown. and one big fumble. We'll get into that in a moment. Reception-wise for the Giants, 8 receptions for Malik Neighbors, 78 yards and 2 touchdowns. Wendell was quiet, but 7 receptions for 61 yards. So kind of unsung with him, I think, a little bit, where maybe he doesn't get the love that Malik gets, but he actually had quite a few big plays for the Giants in this game. Devin Singletary, 4 catches, 43 yards, and then a couple other little minor ones. Daniel Ballinger had a catch for 17 yards. Tyrone Tracy, 2 catches for 17 yards. Theo, 1 catch, 13 yards, and Darius Slayton, 1 catch, 7 yards. Kind of weird that the wide receiver 2 in this offense really just isn't being used much right now between Darius Slayton or Jalen Hyatt. Darius, pretty quiet in most games. Obviously, Jalen Hyatt playing a backup role right now. It doesn't actually have a catch on the year. Big story of the game, fumbles. Devin Singletary, big fumble, and then Eric Gray, big fumble on the opening kickoff, guys. What the frick? Boy, talk about a gut punch to start the game. I'm like, all right, we can do this. We can beat this team. They're not a great team. They're a decent team, and we can beat them. Oh, we're getting the ball first. All right, let's try to establish a drive. Boom, fumble. Boom, touchdown. Now that touchdown with Amari Cooper was a good throw. Right on the sideline, tippy toes, got the feet down. Deonte Banks, and we'll get into this a little bit later as well. Just turn around, man. Turn around. You're in good coverage. You just got to turn around and find the ball and make a play on it. And then obviously the Giants get the ball back after the touchdown and throw the pick, and you're like, "What? Oh, here we go. This is just season's over. The season's over." Really, kind of that's how I felt at that point. It was like, officially, drive the knife in my back. It's over. Penalty on a kind of it was a penalty. I think it was a little. I don't want to say ticky tacky. By the letter of the law, he hit him in the helmet. It was a penalty, but kind of gave us a new life on the season, quite honestly. After that, 3 touchdown drives for the Giants, controlled the game quite well, played great. Browns offense, while we're talking about offense here, Deshaun Watson, 21 for 37, 196 yards, 2 touchdowns, was sacked 8 times. That was a big thing there. His QBR, 27.3. Rushing the ball, I thought might be something they could take advantage against us here. Jerome Ford had 10 carries for 37 yards. Deshaun Watson, 4 for 26, and Deonta Foreman, 2 for 5. Overall, they rushed for 69 yards with a 3.8 average on those rushing attempts. Definitely something I thought they would do a little bit more and better, to be completely honest with you, but they didn't. Receiving wise for the Cleveland Browns, quiet for Amari Cooper, 7 for 86 with 2 touchdowns. Not quiet in the sense that he didn't do much, but just something that's overshadowed, I guess, more of what I should say here. He actually had a pretty good game. But after that, what? You had Jerome Ford, 3 catches for 33 yards. You had Jordan Akins, 4 catches for 29 yards. Jerry Jeudy, 4 for 27. Elijah Moore for 2 for 17. And Cedric Tillman, 1 for 4. So not a lot happened there. Fumbles for the Browns, 2, and they were both lost, both on Deshaun Watson technically. And that's what we got, guys. Defensively for the Giants, obviously a sack, crazy game here. Let's see here. We had 8 sacks. Pinnock had a sack. Bobby Okereke had a sack, half sack actually. Mike McFadden, half sack. Raheem Nunez-Roches, half a sack. Dexter Lawrence had 2. Brian Burns, 1. Elijah Chapman, 1. Kayvon had half a sack. Azeez Ojulari had a sack. So kind of a sack party. A lot of sacks. Some nice quarterback hits here. I think Dexter Lawrence had 4 quarterback hits as well. So really good to see the defensive line kind of be dominant in this game. And that's something that we haven't really seen too much this year. Obviously, the Washington game, we had more sacks, but that was a little bit more, a lot of like secondary guys, Pinnock getting sacks, stuff like that, where it wasn't as much the front 4 or the front 3, whatever you want to call it. But it was nice to see, according to PFF, Brian Burns had an 89.7 grade. Dexter Lawrence had an 87.5 grade. So it was nice to see the front getting some love with the PFF grades and actually making an impact. Obviously, Brian Burns gets that strip sack, such a pivotal point in the game. Kind of a weird play right before that, where it was 4th and 1 at their like 30, and the Browns went for it. I'm like, man, they're not snapping this. How stupid would it be? Maybe it wasn't the 30, maybe it was more like the 40 or 45. But how stupid would it be if they actually go for this, don't get it, give us 30, 40 seconds here to try to get down the field and score? I guess maybe they didn't really have faith in their defense at that point stopping us. But you have a great defense. I don't understand why you didn't have faith in that. It is what it is. They got it. So I guess props and hats off to them. But what happened next? Strip sack. We get the ball. We drive down the field. Have an amazing play by Malik Neighbors, and then a touchdown. And that really kind of put the game at that point 21-7 going into the halftime. You feel pretty dang confident. Obviously, the offense at that point couldn't really get anything else going. We had the fumble at that point with Devin Singletary. Then you had a couple plays that just kind of didn't go our way. You had the missed field goal, which might be an interesting thing to talk about here in a couple of minutes as well. Actually, let's talk about it right now. Brian Daboll was asked if he was committed to Greg Joseph being our kicker against Dallas, and he would not commit to it. I'm not sure what that means. Might mean nothing at all. He obviously doesn't give a lot of information in post-game pressers. But does that open the door for Jude McAtamy to kind of come in and maybe have a chance against Dallas? One thing that I didn't really think about until I heard this was maybe Daboll really wanted to have Greg Joseph kick in Cleveland. Jude McAtamy is obviously experienced with kicking in MetLife Stadium at this point, but maybe he's going to give him that chance to kind of have that opportunity in New York for a game and just see what he does. Maybe we can find something. You never really know. We do have to kind of look at the kicker position here at some point and move on, quote unquote. The other PFF grades, which I thought were interesting, Malik Neighbors, obviously 83.8, the highest offensive player. Mikey McFadden, 82.3. And that's something I wanted to kind of bring up. Jason Pinnock, obviously 82.2. So both safeties looking good in this, or Jason Pinnock, I guess I should say. But Mikey McFadden, somebody that I was kind of nervous about in this, that inside linebacker 2 position, what was going to happen there. And he really kind of so far has shown that when he's healthy, he is kind of a baller. He's been playing well. He's got to finish sacks. I think we've had 2 of those so far this year, where he just needs to finish the sack. Come on, get to it and finish it. But he didn't. But playing well and really, really good to see. What else, guys? I know we kind of went on a little bit of a tangent there. Just some things I had noticed or kind of had questions about. The other thing I wanted to get onto while we're kind of talking about the offense, obviously the offense has kind of ran through Malik Neighbors, but this game I think Wan'Dale had a bigger impact than maybe you see. I think it's just because Malik is Malik and has been kind of balling out. But also I thought Daniel Jones played a pretty good game. Yes, there were mistakes. Yes, he missed a few throws. I think maybe they don't want to admit that type of stuff, but maybe they're still kind of working on confidence with him to make all the throws, which he's kind of proven he can do. He just, every once in a while, it seems like he loses the accuracy for a play or two and it kind of cost us a couple times, but obviously the team was able to rebound and still keep the win. But I thought he played well. I thought he moved around in the pocket really well. Something I saw a couple times last year towards the beginning of the year, where it just seemed like he was moving around in the pocket pretty well. But last year, obviously, was a completely different story because when he was moving around, it was to save his life, to kind of like not be sacked and stuff of that nature. This game, I felt like he was moving around in the pocket really well, just kind of sagging in a couple spots, getting rid of the ball just in time when pressure was just about getting there, because the Browns did get pressure. They did get pressure. Obviously, he was only sacked once, but the offensive line really held up pretty well. But there were some pressures. And I guess let's get into that, because a lot of it, quite honestly, came from Myles Garrett and Andrew Thomas. Obviously, Andrew Thomas did not have the greatest game. He gave up 8 pressures, 3 quarterback hits, and 5 hurries total with that. Obviously, you're going against Myles Garrett, and that's one of the best edge guys in the league. So you don't love it, but you don't hate it at the same time. He didn't actually give up any sacks, which is big. Obviously, Myles Garrett is playing with an injury at that point too, but he's playing. And I think for the most part, Andrew Thomas, it was probably it wasn't a great game for him, but he held up. And that's what you need. You don't need the plays that destroy a drive. And the offensive line I think has been doing a great job with that. But not only that, you kind of look at the rest of the offensive line. John Runyon, 2 pressures, 2 hurries is what it ended up amounting to. John Michael Schmitz, 2 pressures, 1 quarterback hit, and 1 hurry. That's it. Greg Van Roten had a penalty early but he rebounded with only 1 pressure. Jermaine Illuminor, 4 pressures. Guys, like that's some pretty damn good offensive line play, and that's gotta kind of come to a fore here, or the front, where that means something, guys. If we this for me, this was kind of a test for the game against Dallas. I didn't think we were going to shut down the Cleveland Browns. My goal, if you remember, 2 sacks and under for the Giants front, or for the Browns front. And what did we do? Give up 1 sack. That was a big part of this game. The other part that I mentioned, Devin Singletary. You need to control this game. Now, it didn't really happen. I wanted him to be able to run the ball a little bit more. And Devin Singletary, quite honestly, you're worrying me, man, with the fumbles. The fumbles need to stop. That can't happen in this offense. If you're going to keep fumbling, I like what I see with you other than the fumbles, but at some point we might have to start giving Tyrone Tracy some more carries. It's clear in this offense, to me at least, that probably Eric Gray is not the actual number 2 in this offense. It's Tyrone Tracy, and maybe he needs to start getting more carries if you're going to keep fumbling, man. Can't happen. Cannot happen. That kills you. Part of the reason we lost last week was one of your fumble. Obviously, there's other things involved with that, but it almost cost us this week too. Offensively, guys, obviously, Daniel Jones played pretty well. I don't think he played great. I don't think he played amazing. He played good. I would give him a good grade. It wasn't a bad grade. It wasn't a poor grade. It wasn't a great grade though. I think he played well. He played good. Did enough to keep the Giants in the game. Delivered the ball. Gave Malik Nabers some plays that he could go up and make a play. And yeah, that one that almost was picked was a 50-50 ball. And you want to have him take those shots with Malik Nabers because you trust Malik Nabers to make a play on the ball. The other big one, I think Brian Daboll actually mentioned as well, was the knockdown for Malik Nabers, where Daniel Jones' arm got hit. Looked like they were trying to sneak Theo Johnson out the backside and kind of up the field. Was covered, so glad that it was. Maybe not glad, but happy it ended the way it did. I think it's just an incompletion on that was probably the best case scenario. I don't think Theo Johnson was beating his guy, so that's that. Offensively, not really a lot else to go over. 3 touchdowns in the first half. You love to see that. That's something that the Giants haven't done in a long time. And I guess the other thing that we'll bring up too is Malik Nabers, man. Dude's a stud. Reading this on Twitter, Tony Holman, no idea who that is, at Front Office NFL. Malik Nabers is the first player in NFL history with 20 plus receptions, 250 plus receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns, receiving touchdowns in his first 3 career games. This is crazy, guys, what we're witnessing with Malik Nabers. This guy is an absolute stud. I just hope he can stay healthy. I mean, everything looks like he's a player that hopefully will be on the field all year unless something kind of catastrophic happens. But this offense runs through him. He opens the field up for everyone else. He's going to win those contested catches more often than not. Dude's going to ball out this year. He's going to have over 100 receptions. Man. Oof, this is going to be fun watching him this year. It really is. People are kind of comparing him to Odell Beckham Jr., and it's not the same to me. Odell, I feel like, was such a player after the catch. I never felt like he made like these crazy spectacular catches, obviously other than one of the big ones. But he was always a guy that like took a play and made something happen after the catch. Malik Nabers, I think he can do that too. But he seems to just come down with the ball. He makes contested catches. That's something I feel like Odell never was great at. Odell would make the catch that was there. You'd have some drops every once in a while where you're like, dude, what are you freaking doing? The Green Bay Packers playoff game in 2016, I think it was. But Malik Nabers seems to be more of that, like, I'm a dog. I'm going to go catch that ball. I'm going to catch 99% of the balls that I get thrown my way. Obviously, he's still pissed off about missing the one against the Commanders. He still talks about it. But he's just kind of a different breed. He's not really the same as Odell Beckham. He's more built, great route runner. Not that Odell wasn't, but he's just more of a sure-handed bowling ball. Like, he can go deep. He can do that stuff too, and we haven't really seen that yet. And I think that's more partially to do with Daniel Jones' ability to throw the deep ball, which just seems like he can't kind of get in a rhythm with it. But but he just seems like just a different player. And I don't really want to compare him to Odell Beckham Jr. Regardless, dude's a baller. Let's jump over to the defense because that's really where we should be spending most of our time on. Obviously, eight sacks, like 18 pressures or something crazy like that against the Browns. Defense balled out. They blitzed way more than we anticipated. I hope that Shane Bowen kind of takes that information, and kind of, obviously it's game plan specific against certain opponents, but it was a tendency breaker. You need to keep kind of having those tendency breakers to show defense is something that they're not expecting. Deshaun Watson admitted that he was confused and not really ready for what the Giants did in this game. A lot of blitzing. The really cool play I think Bobby Skinner highlighted from the Talking Giants guys, where Jason Pinnock kind of follows Amari Cooper across the formation, kind of showing that you're in man. And as he gets to the other side, blitzes right off that edge, something that Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns didn't expect, gets a sack. Stuff like that, like blitzing at like a 50% rate or something like that, where that's something that's kind of unheard of in a Shane Bowen defense. Brian Burns made plays. Kayvon Thibodeau, even though you don't see like the PFF grades, played well. Elijah Chapman getting a sack, and it wasn't like a cleanup sack. It was someone that it was a play that he actually beat his guy and actually played quite well in this game when he had chances. Just all around. Well, how do I even not mention Dexter Lawrence? 2 sacks, 4 or 5 pressures, maybe more. Dude balled out. It was a really a nice game just to see the defense make some plays. Now, we need to see it against another quarterback. We need to see it against Dak Prescott next week, where the offense is a little more lethal, has one of the best receivers in the league with CeeDee Lamb. Not a great running game, to be determined if that can beat the Giants, with a running game, but really need to see the defense step up, get some pressures at home, get some sacks against Dak Prescott on a team that is kind of reeling a little bit right now with what they got going on. Jason Pinnock in the back end playing great football. Tyler Newbin kind of quiet in this game. I didn't really see a lot from him, but I think as a safety, that's generally a good thing. I'll look to see what kind of more information comes out with him. Cordell Flott seemed to be flying around a little bit, a couple of missed tackles, but actually played decent. Adoree Jackson obviously got hurt. Probably my I don't want to call it a worry of this defense right now, and I think it's kind of showing up again this week. Deonte Banks. What are you doing, dude? Like, I think for me, I think Deonte Banks is proving that he is not a cornerback 1 in this league. He's a good cornerback 2. I think he can be a good cornerback 2 in this league and for the Giants. But it's just, man, get your head around. You're in decent shape a lot of the time. You're in decent position, but you just aren't turning around. It shows up all the time. Now people are kind of picking on him a little bit with the touchdown on the little slant one-on-one coverage with Amari Cooper. Go watch that play again, guys. I'm not saying that Deonte Banks didn't do anything wrong, but he didn't technically, I think, get beat on that. Amari Cooper did something that's a veteran move. It was a play-action play on the goal line. Amari Cooper just kind of comes up like he's kind of like a pass block or run blocking, but like obviously not really involved in the play. And then jets in, makes a nice move. So he sold it great, because Deonte Banks maybe hasn't seen that too much yet in the league, where a veteran cornerback just baits him, man. A veteran wide receiver kind of comes up once again, just kind of like pass block, run blocking, and then boom. It was just a very savvy veteran play. Now Deonte Banks, you got to be ready for that, man. You got to get with it, man, a little bit. I'm not excusing Deonte Banks on that, but it wasn't a coverage thing. It wasn't like he couldn't have been in the right position. It was just kind of a savern, like tip your cap. I have a head on, I guess. Tip your cap to the receiver, Amari Cooper. Great play, veteran play. I just think it was kind of a cool, veteran savvy play. And I'm not as mad at Deonte Banks on that, although you need to be ready for that shit, man. You need to get your head around. You need to be ready for these things. Attention to detail. And I think that to me might be why I kind of feel like he's not a cornerback one in this league. He can be a good cornerback too, though. And that's not a bad thing, guys. He's a late draft pick, 25, 26, wherever we drafted him in the draft. He's young. He's fast. He's physical. He can be a good cornerback in this league. I just don't know if he's a number one. I don't think he's a number one, more accurately. So that'll be something we'll have to address, in the draft, free agency. We have made some good moves in free agency. I trust that maybe we can bring in a veteran cornerback or draft somebody that can potentially be better. We'll see. Defensively, obviously, I think this unit kind of won the game for the Giants. Obviously, we put up 21 points. You need the points to win. And that's kind of something I mentioned last week as well. But the defense time in, time out performed, especially there at the end, to not let the Browns get in the end zone and kind of kept the Giants in this game and didn't let the Browns beat us. Now, one thing that I think helps with the defense, and this wasn't the case last week, the Giants controlled the time of possession of this game. They gave the defense a chance to rest, and that's something that I don't really think is being talked about too much. So the key kind of takeaway for me was the offense. The defense won this game for the Giants, but the offense did a great job of controlling the time of possession, allowing the defense to get off the field a little bit and have a breather here and there, to where when the pass rush was back out in the field, when Dex was out there, when Kayvon and Brian Burns and even Azeez Ojulari was out there and Elijah Chapman, they weren't gassed. They were able to, pin their ears back and get some pressure. The running game really was kind of non-existent in this game. So I think it was something where the offense, it's just kind of a good overall game where the offense helped, the defense helped. The offense first half, defense second half. I don't know. That's all I got for us today, guys, though. I am extremely pumped about the win. What does that mean for next week? We got Dallas, and it's a home game. I'm actually going to be at the game. I'm going to be there with a couple buddies, Ryan and Anthony, who may be on the podcast next week or next episode, I should say. But I'll be at the game. Pumped to be there. I was at the game last year, the opening game with Anthony, and it was brutal. We need a rebound here. And Dallas kind of, I feel like we've said this before. Dallas is in a little bit of disarray right now, a little dysfunctional. Dak saying, if you're not on the bus, get off. CeeDee Lamb's yelling at people on the sideline. Defense isn't happy. Couldn't stop the run at all. This might be a game where, man, do we have a chance? Do we have a chance? Probably not. I did pick the Browns to beat the Giants last week, and I've been wrong every other time. So I might just have to pick the Dallas Cowboys again to beat the Giants, just to kind of throw a little stitious out there. I'm not superstitious, but I'm a little stitious. Guys, thanks so much for joining me. If you could, please like and subscribe. I hate to keep pounding that, but at the same time, that's how you grow. And I am looking to grow this. I've had a lot of fun doing this. I appreciate the current followers and subscribers and the people that are supporting me so far. And thanks, guys, so much. Really, I do, from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate it. I'm not talking Giants. I'm not Giants Insider. I'm not this, big podcast that, I'm not getting paid for this. I'm doing this kind of just for the fun of it. And I love talking, but that's also why I'm kind of here as like, just an average fan, kind of, maybe an average fan isn't the right word, but like, we're talking average shit here. We're talking, what went well, what went good. I'm not talking about EPA. I'm not talking stat heavy, next gen. I throw some numbers out there, and I'll throw some knowledge out there and kind of break it down in layman's terms, I think, more than anything. But end of the day, guys, really appreciate you. Thanks so much for listening and watching, whether you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or on YouTube. Thanks so much for joining me. Like I said, I'll have another episode out maybe tomorrow, maybe Wednesday, with a preview for the Dallas game. That's all I got, though, guys. Giants 1-2. Let's go Big Blue. Peace out, guys. Love you. I'm out.